Joining me now to sound off about all this, he's the founder and executive director at theclimatedepot.com, our pal, Mark Morano, back on the program. So Mark, you're the climate guy that tells the truth about the climate, unlike the alarmists on the radical left. So let me ask you a real easy, direct question. Do you think the liberal government that runs Canada, because let's be real, they're not conservative up there, at least their government's not. Do you think, just like California, because they're not willing to go in and clean their forests up, like President Trump's been talking about for a decade, is that's what's leading to these massive super fires? Because I just Googled and AI tells me this is now the fourth straight year, 23 through 26, America has been affected with poor air quality because of these massive wildfires in Canada.
Absolutely. Canada's got the same problem as California. And President Trump, if you recall, called out Governor Newsom.
Yep.
This was about 2 or 3 years ago about their forestry policies. And everyone was outraged. And then later, the National Forest Service, all these other, even under Biden, admitted that Trump was correct. And it's exact same policies in Canada. Even decades ago, they allowed the indigenous populations to do fires, controlled burns throughout to keep the fires thinned out, if you will. But environmentalism has taken hold. America's not immune to it either, but we've been trying to reverse it steadily over the last decade. But this idea of the forests are this pristine Garden of Eden, and as you mentioned, a salamander, it could be a snail, it could be any kind of aspect of wildlife or exotic plant. We can't touch it. We must let it go. We must not do anything to it. And so what happens is you get a giant just tinderbox ready to explode.
Yeah.
And this is now, I remember 2003 was particularly bad. 2023 was particularly bad with this smoke. But I'm here in Virginia, and I got to tell you, I don't wake up in the morning and say, I love the smell of Canadian wildfire in the morning. That's not the way it goes. There's a haze over everywhere, and it's absolute forest mismanagement. And to make it all worse is that the Prime Minister Carney believes that Canada needs to double down on their climate goals in order to prevent future forest fires.
That makes no sense. Double down on what you're already doing, which isn't working because you've had 4 or 5 straight years of massive wildfires because you have so much dead foliage on the ground because you idiots won't move it because you think that will disturb, again, some little snail or salamander. Like in Cali, it was, oh, well, we can't do this or that because of this stupid smelt fish or whatever it was. And then we had those massive fires that burned down the Palisades all around LA and stuff. It is asinine to think that. I mean, come on. What do they make homeowners do who live in a wildfire zone? Right, Mark? I live in one. They tell us, keep dead brush and debris 100 feet or more away from your home. But then you won't clean the forest up that we live in. What the?
Yeah, and that's the key point here. Wildfires, forest fires are the worst metric of ever. If you're trying to prove climate change, as so many people in the media and environmental groups, oh, look at this is climate change. You are dealing with land development issues, property rights. You're dealing with forestry policy and practices, roads, fire breaks, hydration, all sorts of development issues. The last thing on the list is climate. And even if you, by the way, even if you factor that in, Canadian wildfires are down significantly over past decades. Overall, U.S. wildfires are down dramatically. Global wildfires are down. Why? Because we know how to, usually know how to fight fires pretty quickly. But when they get as bad as they are in Canada, they lose control.
Sure.
And again, their eyes aren't on the prize. The same thing we had in Washington, D.C. with the massive hundreds of millions of gallons of sewage, raw sewage leaking. Maryland and D.C. were spending all their time talking about climate goals instead of actually worrying about real infrastructure like sewage systems.
Yep. And that's what we got to do. We have to do real forestry work to clean them up so when there is a drought and a small fire starts, it doesn't turn into 200 fires right near Ontario within a month's time. And we just put tons of headlines up where you're literally poisoning people with horrible oxygen. And oh, by the way, killing thousands of wildlife. If you'd have cleaned up your forest, you'd be saving wildlife lives and human lives as well. Mark Morano, as always, thanks for weighing in on this one. Hopefully they get put out soon. Take care, brother.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
Yep.